Alright, hey, good morning everybody. Midrift here with you. Thanks for tuning in. Thanks for taking some time out of your day to check me out. That sounded bad. Hey, good morning everybody. Welcome back. Midrift here with you. So today's episode is brought to you by Rust. And on today's episode, we're going to tackle the exhaust system on my motorcycle. So if you watched the previous video, what seemed like a simple job at the start turned into what we got right now. So it was a oxygen sensor fault. So I said, hey, let's get that switched out. I mean, it is that oxygen sensor in the exhaust was original. So it's got some crud, got some miles, got some heat and rust cycles going on. And when I went to go remove it, I snapped it right off in the hole. So I was like, great, perfect, excellent. Well, let's move forward. Let's get the exhaust off. And in the process of getting the exhaust off, I was able to get 5 out of the 6 studs out, and the last one snapped. So I drilled it. I tried the bolt extractor tool, and that didn't work. I ended up actually breaking off a piece of the engine where the stud mounts, and I didn't go through the water jacket. I didn't do anything crazy there. So I'm going to JB weld that piece back on, and I'm going to grind off the old studs on the exhaust gaskets. No, sorry, not the gaskets, flanges. There we go, exhaust flanges, and drill and tap the new hole for the oxygen sensor. And then once the JB weld sets, I'm going to drill and tap that for that new exhaust stud. I got lucky, I'll say this, I got lucky, and it's only a small piece of the corner, so I didn't crack it, like I didn't break the whole bit off, and I didn't do a whole lot of damage. I wasn't sure exactly, so I kind of proceeded with caution, and I was like, something wasn't right, and I felt something give, and I thought it was the bolt was turning out, and it wasn't. It was the side that I'd cracked the little flange thing off, and the little stud mount hole, whatever you want to call it. Anyway, moving forward here. So if you find yourself in a spot of exhaust, don't necessarily be like, I'm by all means an expert or a professional technician or mechanic, but I got my manual, the Hayes manual or the Climber manual, whichever one you have, and I just read into that and followed that the best I could, and it got me this far. So exhaust may seem daunting because there's rust and parts, and you're like, oh god, there's stuff, but really I just removed the radiator on the motorcycle. There's 3 mounting bolts holding the radiator on. I drained the radiator, removed the radiator, and then got at the exhaust. So it's not too bad. So it's something that I would probably say the average person can do, even if you don't have much mechanical background. If you follow the guide, it'll get you there. So moving forward from that, I went to the dealership, and I got 6 new studs, 6 new nuts, 3 new copper exhaust gaskets. And the ones that I took out were copper with like the metal mesh in between, whatever they use. That's what the old ones were. So I got the replacement. Anyway, that cost me a grand total of $41 after tax. So in my opinion, don't cheap out. Don't try to save yourself 40 bucks at this stage of the game, because it's not worth the butt pain. And what I mean by that is, once you crush, or once the exhaust gaskets are crushed or formed, and the heat cooling cycles gone up and down, they form for the pipe, and they form and seal off, so you don't lean your bike out. If you try to reuse the old gaskets or try to save yourself some money, and so you go to the store and get the $12 or $15 gasket sealer, it's not necessarily going to work so well here, because it's not like a traditional vehicle exhaust or another vehicle exhaust where the exhaust manifold like is flat against the exhaust ports, it actually goes in to the engine and the exhaust flange. So there's a bit of a lip and an insert. So you can try, but I wouldn't recommend it. There's not much of a lip there to build a seal, and when you push the pipe on there, all the goo is going to smush out into your exhaust ports, and then you're probably going to have worse problems. So save yourself that hassle, save yourself the butt pain, go to the dealership, get the right parts, and for $40 it's probably a good investment, because if there's problems later on and you didn't put new parts back in the exhaust, I mean, you're probably going to end up having to take it all off and do it all over again anyway. So it'll cost you even more time, more money, more BS. So just do it right the first time. You can do what you want, it's your bike, but that's what I would recommend. Okay, so moving forward here, I'll show you what we're getting at here and what I was talking about. So see how rusted all these nuts are under the studs? That's what I'm talking about, and that's what we're dealing with. So there's been some years and years and years. So what I'm going to do is take this flange off. I guess it's a tapped hole behind there. It's not an actual, not that I can see. So I'm going to remove that guard. I'm going to JB weld a new flange on there, and then once it sets, I'll drill and tap it, and then that bolt will screw back in there. And I'm also going to JB weld that piece that I broke off back onto my bike. So that's what we're going to get up to today. Is going to be dealing with this the mid pipe and header mid pipe, I guess you'd call this. Getting that ready to go, getting the piece put back on, or the broke off piece put back onto my bike, and just continue to wait out for the rest of my parts. So the reason why we're doing this today is because I got my oxygen sensor from the dealership yesterday, which is why I got all those other parts. I was there, pick up my oxygen sensor. The left-hand switch assembly and the clutch safety switch are still somewhere in transit. I don't know where. So I'm gonna do whatever I can right now to get this ready to go, so that I can basically, when that left-hand switch comes, I can mount it and get it ready to go. I'm still waiting for my new air filter to come in. That hasn't arrived yet. And I think that's it. That's it for the parts out on my bike. So stuff is slowly coming together, although I did keep my old air filter, because if my new one doesn't come in, I can still put it in and ride my bike. More importantly, I can start it up and flush out my cooling system. So enough talking, let's get at it. Just briefly, everybody, so I'm just changing the order of that I'm doing things. I'm gonna prep this piece. I'm gonna paint it blue. I've got another exhaust flange piece that I'm gonna go in there. It's the O2 cover sensor cover, sure. I'm gonna go and prep those pieces. I'm gonna blast them blue, and as they're drying, I'm gonna start prepping the cylinder portion here and JB welding. Alrighty, tap held up. It's sorry, tap held up. It's still a little warm. Goodness, but I am thoroughly impressed with that. And now I can put my oxygen sensor back in. Whew, okay. So now it's battery change time, coffee break time, and I'm gonna start prepping and getting that engine piece ready to go so I can JB weld it on, and we're moving along well. So I'm not, cross my fingers, I'm not gonna jinx myself. But battery change, coffee break, and I'll be back. Okay.